Well, congratulations. I ordered a Coke. I did this one. So I ordered a Coke and
Okay.
it was 100 and, how companies have stuff that's returned. And it didn't return. Well, I got the separate bill. So anyway, they gave me a refund, but they won't. So I took it up. So much. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I put it on that one. I have. You have that one. Yeah, I put it on.
Turn this on.
But it's the city hall.
Good evening, everyone. We're going to start open the city council meeting of March 2nd, 2023, 501 Main Street, 5:30 p.m. Call to order and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May I have a roll call?
Crenshaw,
Here.
Alteid, Garcia, Oltmans,
Here.
Helenthal, Andrews,
Here.
Tillman,
Here.
Bryant,
Here.
Greenwald,
Here.
6 present, 3 absent.
Item number 4, Mayor's Correspondence. Tomorrow, Friday, March 3rd, the All-City Band Concert at Keokuk Senior High Wright Fieldhouse at 7 o'clock p.m. Grades 5th through 12th will be performing. On Saturday, March 4th, 2023, the Keokuk Community Schools and the Main Street in Keokuk Incorporated are partnering with the Revolution of Art, and it's all on display in the windows of our Main Street businesses. The grades are pre-K through 12th and are on display. Take a walk and see the artistic talent of the students and teens in our community. Item number 2, Great River Players are doing a breakfast of desperation at Hy-Vee at 9 a.m. Item number 3, while you're out and looking at the art stuff, go to the grand opening of a new business in Keokuk, the Timber's Edge at 717 Main. Last but not least, the library is having craft, coffee, and conversation at 11 o'clock a.m. for all teens and adults are welcome. Sunday, March 5th, 2023, Standing Bear Council will be having a meeting at the Hawkeye Restaurant in Keokuk at 1 p.m. I'd like to take this time to do a huge shout out to the Keokuk Fire Department and to the Keokuk Police Department for their quick response to the fire at 15th and Main this week. Great job in getting it under control, getting things done, and making sure that we had no injuries. Thank you, guys. As always, remember to shop, eat, drink, and support all our local businesses here in Keokuk. Enjoy all that Keokuk has to offer, local first. Item number 5 is citizens' request. If you have a request, when you come to the podium, please state your name and your address, speak into the microphone, and try to keep your comments to about 5 minutes. If there's more than one member of your group, try to keep, different information for each one. And so if we have any citizens' requests, now is the time.
Good evening. I'm Deborah Letcher, representing the CARE, and I'm the chair of the Juneteenth Committee. We came to talk a little bit about Juneteenth. I submitted a request to the city. I filled out my paperwork, and our paperwork and the DOT paperwork to have a parade on Friday, June the 23rd here. And the parade route would be from the 2nd Street to 11th Street. It will end at Getwells, where we'll have some music and celebration there also. So I'm asking for permission to have that done and to be able to have the alternative route for our parade. And also on Saturday, we will have our celebration of Juneteenth at the park all day. I've also submitted that request. Both of those have been submitted to you guys for approval. It is Saturday, June the 24th, and there will be a 5K Freedom Run, which we need to have access to Grand Avenue. So from the park down Grand Avenue will be our route. So we're looking for requests for all of those. And also on Wednesday, we plan to have a food truck festival. That would be between 11th and 12th on Main Street. But we do not need to block off Main Street that day. We just want the parking on the right-hand side. If you're heading south, there is only Getwells and the swimming pool and L trains there. The rest of the buildings are all empty. So the trucks would just park in the parking spots on that street and then go around the corner to where Getwells is. So he will be submitting a permit, also request to block off his area down there for music and food. So that would be on the Wednesday of the same week. We plan to have a week-long celebration this year, a little different. So there'll be start off with a musical on Monday night. And then the library will host several different events. We will have De'Ara Say, who is a Black artist. She will be on display at the library for the whole month of June, but you can meet the artist on Thursday evening. So every day we will be doing something in celebration that week. We have also come to ask the mayor for a proclamation again this year for Juneteenth. So we like to get it a little earlier than we did last year. I know we was kind of dragging our feet, but this year we want to get it earlier, sooner, so we can proclaim it out there. And one other request, I did talk to Kiara at the Chamber or City, Main Street. Yes. We want to kind of, for us, we want it to be a community event. I mean, we really don't have a big community event anymore since the Civil War reenactment left. And so I'd like to submit that we would ask all these businesses on Main Street to maybe have a Juneteenth sale, you know, some type of articles, especially the night of the parade. So when people come by, maybe they'll visit those merchants here in the town and they would be in that part of that celebration. And also we'd like to have a window dressing contest where we'd award for the best window for the theme of Juneteenth. So I've asked Kiara about that. I don't know if she submits to you guys or how that works, but we'd also like to have that as part of our celebration. So that's our request tonight. So if you guys can get that so that we could start proceeding with asking people to be involved, especially for the parade and the food truck. So thank you. Any questions?
So you said that the parade was going to be on Friday, June 23rd. What time are you going to have it?
5 p.m.
5 p.m. I was going to say an evening parade. So
Yes.
nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
5 p.m.
Thanks.
Sorry, it says on the application that there's a 4:30 closure time, so I did see that on there.
Thank you.
Okay, and I have submitted that to the DOT too, so I have that information. I turned it all in, so. Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you, very good. Great week for the city of Keokuk and for Juneteenth. Okay, do I have anybody else?
Good evening. My name's Mark Long. I'm the Director of EMS for Lee County. I just wanted to stop by and talk to you all for a moment about the elections coming up next week. I'm sure you've all seen the signs around town, stuff in the paper about the upcoming vote. So what we're trying to do with this, first of all, it's really trying to accomplish two things. And the first is to make EMS an essential service. And so the reason that we're trying to do that, right now in the state of Iowa, there's no requirement for anybody to provide EMS for a county, for a city. there's no legal requirement for that. So if the county would close the ambulance services doors tomorrow and nobody came in and opened it back up, we could be just without an ambulance. So if the vote passes, the first thing that it does is it makes it an essential service for the next 10 years, meaning the county would be required to provide that service. Then the second thing is financial. So it does give them the ability to tax for that service. I know I'll try to keep it short. I could go on and on about this, but just to give you a few numbers that make sense. So the tax that they're trying to levy would be if you own a $100,000 house, its property tax would be about $42 a year, rise in taxes. And kind of the reason that we're trying to do that is right now funding for EMS is a big problem, and it's not just a Lee County problem, it's a problem really nationwide. EMS was a long time ago dominated by private-based services, and a lot of those services have closed their doors because it's just not profitable anymore, which has left counties and cities to pick that up and take it and run with it. But the two problems that we face, the first one is, everything's cost is so high right now. I mean, if you've bought a gallon of gas lately or tried to, buy anything at the store, you know how high costs are. But on the flip side, we're not really getting paid for our services. When we take care of a patient, especially like a Medicaid patient, what we bill, depending on the call, we usually get about 18 to 20% of what we bill back as for revenues. So that's led to a situation where our costs are around $4 million and our revenues are about 1.8. So doesn't take much math to realize that's a big problem. So this tax levy would bring about $1.2 million into our budget. We run about 6,000 ambulance calls a year. That's what we're on track for right now. And just to continue that service, that's, we need help with the funding right now. The county's general fund has been kind of supporting us since they took over, but they're kind of to a point where they just can't continue to make that bridge anymore. So if anybody's got any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I'm curious how the Lee County EMS service partners with the cities and the services that they provide for EMS with the fire department. So looking at last year's, in the 2020 report for our fire department that they file annually with the state, they had 20% of the calls were rescue EMS incidents. 52% of their calls were EMS calls excluding vehicle accident with injury. I just was curious how that works and how that all operates.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, we run on most calls together. They provide first response to us. So that means that if, because we are spread out around the county, we try to keep ambulances in the cities all the time. But if we have a little longer response time, they're always in the city so they can get there a little quicker, start caring for the patient until we can get there. Also just extra help, they're EMTs as well, so they can help us out on scene, help us get loaded up. And so the vast majority of the calls we respond to together. There are a few different call types that they don't respond to, like the nursing homes, just because we have nursing home staff there. And there's sometimes that they handle calls that we don't even show up to, like lift assist. Sometimes they'll go pick the patients up before we ever get there and call us off. So it works very well together. It's a team effort.
So I talked to the fire chief in Lamar's last year, and he said that they had their ambulance service that they ran through their community. They had 9 firefighters, but 7 of them were paid through their ambulance service because of transfers. How have you guys built in transfers pretty much paid for the whole ambulance service? Is there conversations that you're having around how to use transfers to be able to make this more of a business plan versus just a subsidized tax dollar?
So that is a very good question.
Service.
And it is being discussed, but the issue right now is staffing. So we're the only 911 ambulance service in the county. So we have to make sure that we're providing enough staff for whatever incidents come up in the county. We do take transfers. We don't send 3 trucks out at the same time on a transfer because we don't want to leave the county uncovered. We will take them, kind of at a one at a time basis out of Fort Madison. But we're just limited by staff on that. We could potentially add ambulances and take more transfers. That's been looked at, and it's probably going to be looked at more in the future. But it's just one of those things that we have to make sure it's cost effective, that there's enough transfers there to take. It's going to pay for itself plus some on the business side.
So you said this is a nationwide problem, which no question it is. I grew up in rural America. We haven't had a first responder there for 12, 15 years probably in many of these little rural communities. They're all just volunteer. My question is like, what are some of the creative ways that communities and counties are partnering to be able to utilize the public safety employees that they already have to be able to provide these services? So for instance, I believe that there's some communities that have adopted that they partner, so they had cross-train their employees. So be it maybe they're cross-trained as not only a paramedic, but also as a firefighter, or they're cross-trained in, I think Cedar Falls just adopted a model where they cross-train their employees. But I was just curious if you guys have talked about that and investigated what that would look like.
Yeah, another great question. And we haven't really looked at that just because of our call volume. Our staff just doesn't have enough time to be out doing other things. If we were going to do that, we'd have to add staff, which is going to add cost.
Well, I wasn't talking about adding staff. I was saying that as a county, we have 2 full-time fire departments in a community of nearly around 30,000. We have, we have all these public safety people. Is there ways to have a conversation about how do we best utilize all of our people so that we have coverage that makes sense for our communities? Because the cost to provide these services is a lot.
Right.
So that's what I was just curious if there's been conversations.
Yeah, and there really hasn't, and doesn't mean we couldn't have those conversations. But it just goes back to, I'm sure the Chief Rose would probably say the same thing, where his staffing's at. He's probably got enough staff to put out fires, but if he was going to run ambulance calls on top of those fires, he'd need more staff. Just like if I don't have enough staff to go put out fires on top of the ambulance calls that we're running, if that makes sense.
Well, actually, all the communities in the state of Iowa that are our size, other than Fort Madison and Keokuk, have combination forces that have 3 to 8 professional firefighters and then 20 to 30 volunteer firefighters.
Yeah, and that's, I won't get into the fire side.
No,
but
I'm
those
just
are other
saying that,
models.
I'm just saying is that there's
Yeah.
other communities are looking at different things in different ways. And I was just
Right.
curious if we're even having those conversations.
On the EMS side, no,
Okay.
there's been some volunteer ambulance services around here. Hancock County had, I believe it was Warsaw, had a volunteer ambulance not that long ago. It kind of fell apart because of
Well, and I wasn't
staffing.
talking about volunteer. What I'm saying is that can we partner together so that it's not just a county service and the county has to be responsible for all the county? I'm saying is like partnerships where we look at it from a perspective of if we have all these people together, how can we best make sure we're utilizing those? That's what I'm just saying is that a lot of communities are having these conversations.
Conversations never hurt. Any other questions?
So how many staff do you have right now, since you said you have a staff issue?
We don't, so when I say we have a staffing issue, it's not really a staffing issue as far as we're short-staffed. It's just we're staffed at what we need to take care of our call volume. We don't have spare staff sitting around. I have 47 people on staff right now at a time.
I'm sorry, how many?
47.
Okay.
That's a mix of full and part-time staff. We have 4 ambulances staffed at a time and then 1 ALS fly car. So we have 4 transport trucks for the whole county.
And what's
Okay.
the annual budget right now?
This year's was 3.7 million. Next year's is looking to be around 4.4.
Sorry, does that include any capital expenditures or is that just for operations?
That is primarily just operations. There is some ambulance purchases in there, but
That are not included in this budget?
no, they are.
They are.
included.
Okay, that's why I was
Yes.
curious. Thank you.
So if it passes, are you looking at purchasing more ambulances then? Because I believe that we've had a couple instances in town where there wasn't an ambulance available for Keokuk. So how is that going to be addressed?
No, so this is what we need to maintain what we have now, to not go backwards.
So then there really isn't, if there isn't an ambulance for Keokuk, then we really aren't changing anything?
So we should have 2 ambulances in town all the time right now, unless they're out on a call, which happens frequently.
Right, it happens
Um,
a lot.
Right. And I think it's happened less recently, but it does happen. And we try to bring down trucks from other parts of the county when that does happen. But that's why this is so important for this to pass, because to continue to have that many ambulances, we have to have the funding for it.
So, and then you also mentioned that your expenditures are more than the billing and the revenue that's coming in with the Medicare problem and everything. I do like Shelley's idea of looking into transfers. I think there needs to be that part of it really looked at instead of just coming up with more property taxes
Yeah.
and trying to just subsidize it, like she said, momentarily. I am concerned though that if it's just gonna go towards operations and keeping it alive, then there's really no guarantee that we're gonna have ambulances available to Keokuk, but our citizens' property taxes are going to increase for it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand the concern. I think, for one, as far as the county goes, there is a little bit of guarantee with the essential service side. I mean, that's going to require them to provide something. I wish I would have prepared a report on, the average wait time in Keokuk or the average response time in Keokuk. I can tell you countywide, our average response time is about 7 minutes. So, I know every time that there's an ambulance that takes 25 minutes to get somewhere, that's a big deal. But I think really across the board, it happens less than a lot of people think it does. Just because every time it happens, it's a big deal.
Well, and something I think we need to bring up, you're talking about transfers, and I know there's a lot of money in that, but what I don't think y'all understand is a transfer is like 2 to 4 hours, and that's an ambulance out of county. So you're already asking about, hey, what happens when we don't have an ambulance in Keokuk? Sometimes that's because they got one on transfer. Transfers are a lot of money, but there's also a lot of time involved. One transfer, 2 to 4 hours, and that ambulance is basically out of service during that whole time. So then we're down to 3.
And
And
that's
that's part of it. I mean, long term, we need more ambulances and we need more people. But short term, the transfer is a great idea. But if let's just delegate this ambulance for transfer, we might as well only have 3 ambulances in the county because that one's already gone.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to understand. And
I think we do, but I mean, I'm saying is that when you build out a business plan, you build out a 5-year sort of like, what's the growth going to look like?
Right.
How can we get where we want to get? But I think there's also a lot of different communities in the state of Iowa that are dealing with the same issues that we're dealing with.
Yeah.
And I commend you for coming and talking to us and sharing with us. I really do. I just want to ask the questions that are difficult questions. So,
No, and they should be asked, and I appreciate you having me and asking them.
yeah.
And it's something I hope that as a council and myself, we can work together moving forward and talk about these things. One other thing I do want to point out on the transfer thing, transfers pay the same as 911 calls as far as the percent you get. So it's not just as easy as saying we're going to take more transfers and make more money, because if we're transferring patients that are in payer classes that pay us less, we're really not making money on those transports. And I say it's a nationwide problem, and it is, but it's also not in the fact that if you look at some services, like some of the services around Des Moines, they're not having this problem, because most of the patients they transport are Blue Cross Blue Shield patients and people that are paying 80 to 90% of their bills, whereas the vast majority of the people that we transport are not. And so we're getting a much lower chunk. Just being blunt, but that's a big part of the problem.
For the property tax increase, is this going to be proposed as like a set 75 cents for 3 years or 5 years, or is it just for 1 year and then that has the potential to increase next year?
No, it's set for 10 years.
10 years, okay.
So ideally, we would have liked to adjusted it yearly. If next year we were doing better and could dial it down, do that, but that wasn't allowed with the way the bill was written. So you had to pick one number for the next. It could have went up to 15, but we just chose to do 10. So then in 10 years, we'd have to vote on this again if we wanted to continue it or maybe we've got a plan built up to where we don't need to continue it.
Will the, if this passes, will that cover what you need, or is there going to have to be more funding from somewhere else?
I think there'll still have to be a small amount come out of the general fund, but it'll definitely it'll get us a lot closer.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Longren, really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I have no notes.
Huh?
I have no notes.
Oh, go ahead.
I just want to give you a report about our Road of Honor project. Is that our committee met last Tuesday or 2 weeks ago Tuesday. And I've acquired a directory of all the American Legions in the state of Iowa. And we are going to send invitations out along with the pamphlet from the National Cemetery, invite these people to come take a walk through the city of Keokuk. Now, we have 102 legions in the state of Iowa. I've got contact with all 9 district commanders. So we are sending invitations out. I've already started the envelopes, and we'll be probably sending them out after our meeting the 3rd Tuesday of next month, or this month. And the second part is that I have been contacted with our district commander, and I am hoping through our committee that we can invite the district convention to come to Keokuk, not only for their convention, but also take a walk through the National Cemetery and also to the city of Keokuk. And the third thing is I want to thank everybody for the money. I've been working on this for 5 years, and we're starting to see some light. These veterans need honor. So thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Anybody else? Okay, let's move forward. Here we go. Item number 6, the consent agenda. Minutes of the regular city council meeting and council workshop of February 16th, 2023. Minutes of the Civil Service Commission meeting of February 6th, 2023. Certified list for the police department promotional examination conducted on February 6th, 2023 of detective. Minutes of the Safety Committee meeting of February 23rd, 2023. Solution approving a liquor license for Hampton Inn Keokuk, 3201 Main Street, effective March 3rd, 2023. Class B retail alcohol license. Resolution approving a liquor license for L Trains, 1108 Main Street, effective March 15th, 2023. Class C retail alcohol license with outdoor service. Resolution of approving a liquor license for the Site Food Mart, 1301 Main Street, effective March 21st, 2023. Class C retail alcohol license. Motion to pay the bills and transfers listed in registers number 5326 through 5327. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda, including the consent agenda?
Madam Mayor, for the agenda, we need to remove item 9.
Okay, down here, we're going to be removing item 9 on the consent agenda.
No, item 9 on the regular.
I mean, on the regular agenda, I'm sorry, item number 9.
Do we need a motion to amend the agenda? Motion.
Second.
Moved. Yeah.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Then we need to vote on, vote for the agenda, including the consent agenda with the amendment.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Item number 7, consider resolution awarding a contract with Boland Recreation of Marshalltown, Iowa to remove existing turf and install new PIP top coat on Rand Park play equipment area. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
So I think you're all aware that the current status of the top coat of underneath the play equipment at Rand Park is it's very poor shape. It was put on obviously before my time here, but sometime in the last 5-6 years. The warranty has went out on this, so really the only option is to replace it. We did receive 2 estimates one from Boland, which was they installed the original surfacing on there now, which at that time was an experimental surface. This is not that. We also received another estimate for putting the same PIP, which is poured in place top coat on, which was almost double the cost. Boland, the reason why Boland is at the around $37,000 is they are giving us a discount because of how that experimental surface turned out. So there's any question? It's a necessity because it's turning into a safety issue.
Cole, this was one of our topics for the budget meeting, right? A capital improvement project for the park.
Correct. What it is we're going to split this between 2 fiscal years, but this is going to be paid for with a transfer from the Park Improvement Fund.
Okay, because I think I remember we were talking about the amount of around 19,000. So is that because it's split into two?
Split into 2, correct.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Item number 8, consider resolution approving agreement with LCL Farms Incorporated for land application of the biosolids from wastewater treatment plant. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
The city has a contract with LCL Farms to haul and land apply the biosolids produced by the wastewater treatment plant. The current contract is for $18,576 per month, or $222,916 a year. This provided for 2 trucks and a driver to haul the biosolids for the land application of the material. On average, the hauling was 5 trucks a day. After the closure of ADM, the number of trucks for hauling averages 1 to 2 per day. With the reduction of biosolids produced, staff requested the contract be renegotiated. Hauling of the material was removed from the contract. City personnel will be able to haul the 1 to 2 loads to the storage sites, and LCL will be contracted to for land application only. The revised monthly rate is $6,500 per month, or $78,000 annually. There is a 3% annual increase that was part of the original contract. 2 other changes are allowing the contractor to renegotiate the contract should biosolid production increase by more than 30%, and a negotiated price for hauling done on an as-needed basis. The negotiation on the as-needed price will be done at the time of need based upon the amount to haul and the duration of the need.
Any more discussion?
And this has already been talked with, I mean, LCL is already on board with this.
Yeah, we negotiated with LCL.
So I see that the contract would be good until 2029. So how would that be affected if we're able to dry it like you were just talking about?
Well, what we assume is he actually gave us the idea. And he said, I'm probably slitting my own throat, but because there'd be a reduction in the amount of solids to hopefully 0 that he would have to land apply, then we can renegotiate the contract, and he knows that.
Okay.
Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Item number 10, motion to approve Juneteenth parade for CARE on Friday, June 23rd, 2023, starting at 3rd and Main Street to 11th and Main Street. Do I have a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
Any discussion?
Thought she said second.
What's that?
Didn't she say she wanted to start the parade at Second Main? Is that,
Yeah, correct. They want to start at 5, but they want the road closed at 4:30.
this says Third Main.
From,
No, they want to start the parade at 5.
The street.
She said she wanted to start the parade at Second Main. Pardon? Either is fine. Okay. But this says the third.
In the notes here, it says from 3rd and Main Street to 11th and Main
Yeah,
Street.
When she
I
was
understand.
talking to us, she said she wanted to start.
Yeah,
at Second.
but what, okay, all right. So you're want to leave it at 3rd right here? Okay. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Item number 11, boards and commissions.
Two items to vote on, and we can do this as an omnibus vote. Historic Preservation Commission, final notice, Angela Gates with term to expire 9/1/2025. We do have a resignation from the Civil Service Commission, Leanne Schaefer-Smith.
Any more boards or commissions?
No, that's it.
Okay,
We need a motion.
I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Item number 12, council liaison reports.
Great River Regional Waste had a meeting, Evora, that is their engineering firm, has been bought out. We will, every meeting I've been to, they have a representative there. And that they will still be, the gentleman that is a representative will still be our representative. He might not be at every meeting. But, and they have another entity interested in the methane gas. When they close this cell, they have to take and capture that gas and do something with it. So right now they have two entities that's interested in taking care of that.
For the Keokuk Cultural and Entertainment District, we had our meeting not too long ago, and it has been discovered that somewhere over 10 years ago, the certification of that committee lapsed with the state of Iowa. What that means is that the Cultural and Entertainment District will be submitting paperwork to reestablish with the state. And when that happens, that opens up the district to new pools of grant money for various projects that are available. So the committee is going to be getting that paperwork rectified, and they're also continuing to work towards the upcoming Back Alley Band Fest this year.
Okay.
The safety meeting this month was very well attended. I think the attendance was doubled or better, and there was no big issues, no lost time accidents, no nurses calls. So just keep up the good work.
Okay. With that all being said, item number 13 is staff reports.
Okay, we got our pretreatment permits sent out, drafts, and the industries will take time to look them over, consider their testing, sampling, stuff like that, and we'll meet with them and get the finals worked out, and they'll be in place. But this is a big step, and it's really good for the city.
I received one bid on the asbestos for 619, 623, and 625. It was significantly higher than what I expected. So I would like to send that out again to see if we can get more people interested in that. 12/12 concert, the reason that was taken off the agenda is after speaking with the gentleman that's wanting to purchase the building, he is not making any structural changes to the structure. So it's a non-conforming use, and another non-conforming use as like or lower can go into the building. So he's going to go ahead and plan on purchasing that and put 4 apartments in there. Board of Adjustment met yesterday to review the special use permit for Acts 265 Closet. The board went ahead and issued the permit. They were following the criteria that was set for the board, by the board, or they're working on compliance on a couple of other things that they needed to work on.
18th Street, that is an item on tonight's workshop. We'll review that at that time. Riverfront Trail, we're still waiting on the DOT. It has went through our initial contact of Scott Flagg, and it has got sent up the line for an additional review through, I believe it's their remember if it was their finance or their environmental department, but we're still waiting on that contract to be approved. We were told that the firm that is, the archaeological firm that's gonna do the study is ready to go as soon as we give them the thumbs up, so. If it's looking like it's gonna push this project out an additional, I would probably guess a month or two, unless they really get on their horse and get this to us like next week. Ram Park Pond, Michael and his guys started draining the pond this week. It's went just as expected. It went good. There is a lot of silt in the bottom of it. I was contacted and the fish will be removed and transferred on Monday, March 6th. So I'm glad that that was taken care of and our staff didn't have to handle that. We're looking at hopefully the contractor to start the following week, sometime around probably 14th, 15th, if the weather's conducive. Or I was thinking what that Monday was. The Parks Department and myself, we were contacted by AC Contracting. Zach Chase and Wes Ames has offered their services to put up the Triangle Park Shelter House. We're looking at starting to pour that concrete. Our guys are gonna pour the concrete. We're looking at doing that sometime in the next couple of weeks, depending on weather. If that's pretty much it for this week.
Am I on? Yeah, I am on. Okay. So I wanted to update the council on some of the stuff going on at the legislature and with the budget. The residential rollback legislation did pass. The governor signed the bill correcting the residential rollback for fiscal years 23-24. The rollback, already lower than last year, now goes from 56.49 to 54.65. The bill provides for an extension on certification of the budget until April 30th. County auditors have until March 9th to issue the revised valuations. We had planned on having a budget session this Saturday, but given the March 9th deadline for auditors, staff is recommending we move the meeting and initially thought the 11th, but I'd like to have it on the 18th so it gives us time to get all the figures in and get you something before the meeting. Whereas if we went on the 11th, I don't know if I'd have everything ready for you before the meeting. But we'd have everything else ready to go once we have those new calculations. The county has issued revised TIF estimates based upon the new valuations. Total reduction in revenue from this year to next is $80,000 plus or minus. Before the revision, the general fund was to receive approximately $65,000 less in tax revenue. Staff can only assume that the new rollback number will be similar to the original decrease. Not real good news, but we'll work with it and see what we can come up with.
Okay, moving on. Item number 14, do we have any new business? With that being said, item number 15, I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We'll take about 5 minutes and come back and do the workshop.
What you get for feeding them stupid birds.
At certain points, all you do is bend over.
Right.
All you do is bend over.
Oh, I know it.
Anything, you
Oh,
just
I
bend
know
over.
it.
I've found it's reaching like up and over.
Mine is just,
Yeah.
yeah, mine is just a bend over.
Yeah, the other day I was on tippy toes trying to get a dish off a high shelf cabinet and I got it and set it down and I went, how did I just hurt myself?
Exactly right.
Like, but how I explain it makes me think, or I.
I have a.
Uh-huh.
Okay, here we go again, guys. We're going to open up the council workshop, March 2nd, 2023. And the first thing on our agenda is discussion of 18th Street sidewalks and bike lanes.
All right. So Cole and I had a meeting with our engineers and with regional planning last week. We discussed fundings, we discussed bike lanes, and we have, it should have been in your packet. There's a sheet that has the 3 different typical sections for the roadway. I would like to get a consensus, make a decision on one of those typical sections so we can tell the engineer to proceed with the design. So obviously there's a typical section that would be very similar to the way it is today, 37 feet wide, parking. There's one that's got, has two bike lanes, which would eliminate parking on the north side of the street, keep parking on the south side of the street. There was an internal study done by Shoemaker and Holland while I was still there. There is very little parking on the north side of 18th Street right now. The south side has a decent amount. So that's kind of where the difference came between which side to eliminate parking. Kind of the idea behind the bike lanes. The state likes to throw money at trails. And we think we can get some additional funding if we do put a bike lane along there. We think it would, we're trying to make this road, and we're calling it the Road of Honor, to have the biking path available to ride out to the National Cemetery. So it's up for discussion with you guys right now, just on this typical section aspect. Then I have a couple of other things to go over from our regional planning meeting.
Would the addition of bike lanes have a significant impact on the overall cost of the project before looking at
No, so
grants?
basically so on that option number 3 there, the width of the pavement would stay at 37 feet, I believe. It might say, it either says 37 or 37 and a half, but to add 2.5 inches on each side is pretty minute. The cost of the bike lane would be a painted bike trail. So that would be the cost, would be to get the paint, to put the reflective paint down, to put the bike trail symbols in there, which wouldn't be that much. I think in talking with regional planning, we would get more than enough money to cover the bike trails, and the additional money we'd roll back into the street improvement.
I personally, in our comprehensive plan, we have adopted a complete street methodology, meaning that you have access for ADA accessibility, bikes, vehicles, as well as walking, or I think it's pedestrian. And so I would highly recommend that we do move forward with that, as well as the aspect that we are on the Mississippi River Trail that goes the entire Mississippi River. And that, for instance, on Grand Avenue, if that would have been considered a significant, we just need to look at people. You go to communities and they're putting bike lanes all over, and it's because people are wanting to have that kind of transportation option, but also it's about tourism as well. So if you have people that are coming off the MRT, now they can take that and get down there as well. So I support it 100%.
Is there parking on both sides of the street right now?
Currently, yes.
So are you proposing that we're going to do parking on one side or?
Yes.
Okay.
We would do parking, the parking would be solely on the south side of the street and then with the double bike lanes.
Okay. I would prefer that if it's just on one side then instead of both sides.
I think that if you take a trip down 18th Street too, you also see that there's not a lot of houses that are actually facing 18th
Mhm.
Street. The majority of them are on corners facing the cross street. And the other part of that is that the majority of them have alley access too. The ones
Correct.
that are facing they're usually on the alley and they have alley access. So, I can't imagine that this is a big problem in any way, shape, or form to just park on one side.
And I don't either. And the other aspect of this, if we go with the wider street option, we get further down the line with construction estimates, it's a lot easier for the engineer to narrow the corridor than it is to say, wait, we've got enough money to put bike lanes in. For him to widen that, we would end up with a change order from the engineer to widen the road design.
So we did get very rough estimates on construction. And in the original estimate, when we started this whole process, was 3.2. The very rough estimates came in at 4.2, but they've got a 20% contingency in there that we can bring down to 10. There's some other things that they've suggested that can bring that amount down as well. So what it is staff hopes to get, even with the wider bike lane, to get it down to a closer to that 3.2. Staff also did have, Brian and I talked with regional planning. There's Bill's money out there that's being pumped into SRF loans that are forgivable. So we think that, the cost of the sewer, which is,
It was, the cost of the storm sewer and the sanitary sewer alone was around 1.3 million.
right. So we're hoping to be able to get a forgivable loan for that. Unfortunately, the water portion does not qualify for the SRF, but both the sewer and the water could possibly, well, the sewer for sure. We're trying to work on numbers for the sewer or for the water that allow them to apply for a CDBG, which should cover most, if not all, of their cost.
Correct.
So were those numbers of sewer part of the total that you said we were hoping to get down to the 3.2?
Yes, yes.
So the hope is to get our initial estimate down to the 3.2, and we had a very good meeting with regional planning, and we're pretty confident, with the grants and with revolving loans, that we're hoping we can get $1 million for the sewer.
Right. So we could take our direct cost out of the bond down to somewhere around 2 million, which allows much more money for the rest of the street improvements.
And so our application process, the first application would be due in June.
Correct.
And then we would be eligible to reapply for the second round in October. And regional planning seemed to think we had a really good shot at getting both.
Okay, any more discussion? With that being said, we can all go home. Meeting's adjourned.